Gavin, we are back for episode 2 of the Built for Digital series. This has evolved into somewhat of me being interviewer, you being interviewee, and you not seeing any of this stuff. What I can reveal to you up front is this episode is about AI. I know you love AI.
Who doesn't?
I know you're deep in it in many different ways. So I'm calling this one AI for real. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, okay.
There's a bit of, in prepping for this, for me, I had moments of deja vu of parts of our first episode around pilots and things that worked and didn't work, things that stuck, things that didn't stick. And AI's come along quickly. It's progressing quickly, but I'm sort of seeing some similar signs to the last sort of decade in industry trying to develop solutions for government to buy with the promise that it's going to help them in many different ways. Can I start by getting a bit of a warm-up response from you? What your perspective is on the now with AI, just generally, in the built environment, compared to sort of, the last 10, 12 years of smart cities and digital twin and other things. Is it more of the same? Is there something fundamentally different? What say you in a bit of an opening response?
It's same but different.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with how it's different. So what's happened now is that AI is predominantly within a professional sector permeated into everyday life. Some people use it a lot more and some people are using it a lot less. And that could be the fact that your grandmother is talking about AI says everything where your grandmother wasn't talking about smart cities as example. So it's through generative AI, it's accessible to everybody. Whether you're a young child, my daughter who's in year 11 talked about the other day about how she doesn't like using AI and her female friends in terms of don't like using it, but the boys are all using AI.
Right.
And she said they're all lazy. They just want to get it done. They're not learning. And she's saying, I want to use AI because I don't learn anything. Mm-hmm. So we're going from use cases from like children learning through school, graduates, people in professional experienced people of our generation. Mm-hmm. And it's all being used in varying different ways. Now, that wasn't happening with IoT or other smart devices and etc. So I feel that that's changed and people are using it from a freemium perspective where they're using their own products. Huge amounts of worry about what information is being uploaded into these models. People seem to be very keen and happy to upload sensitive information willy-nilly without necessarily, and they're probably declining cookies. Mm-hmm. on websites because they don't want things in terms of following them. So I find that really interesting, the fact that people are quite happy to give away free information about whatever to help them, but if they feel like a machine is looking at them, they decline that. So it's a really interesting human behaviour. So that's fundamentally changed in terms of how people are using it. How things are exactly the same, I feel, is that what we discussed in the first episode, that pilot perspective.
Yeah.
We're probably still seeing quite a lot of bottom up. We use the peer example where people in councils or in governments people are using, they've got Copilot, but they are wanting more analytical capability, more sort of capability to help them with whether it's vibe coding or in terms of using Claude or Gemini or whatever. So we're still seeing bottom up. So that's the same. Mm-hmm. There are exceptions, but in terms of what we're seeing is more in terms of that bottom up is still the same, and lack of a strategic approach, governance, security, capability. So yeah, that's the thing. I think the other thing as well, which is a concerning one, is around reducing headcount. So there's organisations are saying, okay, well, we need to get rid of X amounts of roles, and now seeing that the tokenisation cost more than the actual people salary, and it's not only the salary cost, it's the IP of those people that goes removed. So long way of saying in terms of same, but different.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Let me ask you about you used the word concern there. There were moments definitely during, the sort of smart cities and IoT sort of phases of the last 10 to 12 years where there were moments where we were concerned that we were putting technology before humans, or we weren't necessarily grounding it. There was all remember the sort of the tagline, human-centered smart cities. We kind of there was I think a realization or a fear that, oh my God, this is just tech for tech's sake kind of thing. I've observed, I'm keen on what you've observed, but when it comes to concern and safety and security, sovereignty and sort of other elements, trust, that has crept into the AI narrative and agenda very swiftly. It didn't take years and years for us to go, oh my God, we should not just buy this stuff for the sake of it. Dare I use the word fear? That crept into the AI discussion pretty quickly. That's my observation. Would you concur, deny, agree?
Yeah, well, there's
otherwise?
there's a couple of concerns, isn't there? There's how the models are trained, what the bias is in there in terms of. I think that's a concern in terms of how the model's being trained and what biases it has. I think that's really important. I think the hallucination component, obviously a lot of tier one, big four consultancies have been caught out by publishing content that's clearly been generated by staff and then not fact checking the citations or the quotes or the referencing that doesn't quite clearly exist.
But is that an AI issue or a human operator issue?
Well, so I'm wrapping all concerns together really in terms of around people and tech. So this organisation has decided to use AI. I've got no understanding in terms of how they price that or whatever, but I feel that's obviously a lack of governance and quality control and audit check in terms of to do that. So that's a people failure from a creator to a checker and the partner that was ultimately responsible for signing that off. So I think hallucinations is a real issue and a concern as well. I think the jobs concern as well is scary. And I go back to my daughter's generation who is in year 11, and it's really hard for them to think about them. They're moving into a role where into a world where it's really concerning about they're being told that AI is going to take on the over jobs. People, they're questioning in terms of what do they go and study a degree? Do they need to study a degree?
Yeah.
Do they need to go into debt? The job market is scarce, economic. So it's a really sort of we're in the most exciting stage from a technology perspective, but we're in this sort of stage also where it's like concerning for new people. Also, new entry level jobs aren't necessarily getting trained the way you and I started.
Yeah. Grinding with those mind-numbing research tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fold these drawings up.
Yeah.
Do some research.
Yeah.
Those sort of things aren't happening anymore. So how are we training the team? So I think there's lots of concerns at the moment, not with many answers either at the moment.
Yeah. What's the role? We're here in Montreal, Canada, right now. The Canadian government released its national AI strategy just last month, and I think the tagline was like AI for all or something like that. It's not, nice document, says all the right things. What's the role of national leadership? And I want to bring us to the built environment. I want to sort of get down there. What's the role of national strategy when it comes to AI and the built environment, do you think?
Well, I think it's in terms of it's probably from a framework perspective around people, in terms of how do we train people, how do we build capacity and capability with people. Where do people go and get trained at the moment for AI? You go to, in terms of whether it's from a high school perspective or in terms of like you go to universities, you're online. I did one 18 months ago as an entry point, just as an understanding that helped, but things have progressed so quickly. So I think what it needs...
Just on yours, out of curiosity, so what was that, about 18 months ago?
Yeah, probably coming up to 2 years. Actually, probably closer to 2 years.
2 years, what, an AI certificate of some description?
Oh yeah, I think it was from RMIT.
Okay. How much of it stuck with you? How much of it is relevant?
Oh, look, there were some basics in terms of to help you, but in terms of, it didn't go into agents or agentic, as it was predominantly around sort of generative AI. So as a training provider, how do you remain relevant in terms of to upskill? So I think we've got to work out what basics and fundamentals remain in terms of understanding and term thing, and then there's going to be future capability that comes on top of that. But going back to your question around what is role, has to bring in the guardrails in terms of understanding what's right and wrong for that. I think from a governance perspective as well, security. So these are the key tenets that need to happen to help provide that top-down policy to whether it's an organisation, a department, local government. But yeah, really in terms of providing that sort of secure framework that AI needs to operate in. Because what's happening at the moment is, someone used the term the other day, the Wild West.
Yeah.
People are just using it willy-nilly.
See, when we go back to smart cities, it was technology, it was procurement. You kind of needed tens of thousands, if not maybe hundreds of thousands or $1 million to kind of get something going, maybe less with IoT, digital twins, platforms within predominantly government structures, but even the private sector, it was like you had to procure platforms. Like AI, $30 a month, anyone can just jump onto any computer and you're in.
Yeah, that's the bottom up, and everyone can do it. But it was the chap I was speaking to the other week in terms of, and I asked him that clear question. I said, he deals with the private sector, big sort of tier 1 blue chip companies, and he was saying that those top companies have clear strategies and clear business cases, clear use cases, and they have a very clear understanding about what they want to do, why they want to do it, and how they're going to do it.
Okay.
So
private sector. So like major air carriers, retail, etc. So they have very clear strategic understanding in terms of what they want to do. And he said that they're the most successful. So it's still... But he said he also see on the other scale is that people just want to come in and spend a couple $100,000 and implement things, and those things typically don't necessarily go very far. So he sees the most mature clients are the ones who have a very clear, and part of what we discussed in the last one around what's the clear budget for this, clear understanding, reporting back to the CFO, this is the costs, this is the return of investment, this is how we're going to do it. We need budget X, Y, and Z over the next X amounts of years. That's going to be far more successful than, okay, we've got a bit of cash to do a pilot.
okay, we've had a little play around, probably not that successful. All right, we'll just hold on for a bit.
Yeah.
Don't just sit and wait.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. For the built environment, what's real now from an AI perspective?
What, in terms of use cases?
Yeah. Is there tangibility for the built environment?
Well, look, I think about it, the asset life cycle. So there's capability in terms of, from a planning perspective, to improve from a housing. We're starting to see applications from that. We're starting to see, when we were in Denver last year, with the natural language processing on their front end of their digital twin.
The chatbot with the planning scheme,
So from a basic level, from a planning perspective, someone wants to build a granny annex, they can put in what they're proposing to do, and that just spits out. So something really basic, simple as that. Then you can start getting into more sort of analysing content to feed in information to give you a better output from that. If you want to be thinking about, in terms of from an agentic perspective, to actually start to using multiple models to interpret data, like drawings. AI is typically not very good in interpreting drawings, but if you can reason that through 3 different types of models, that will give you a better answer. So from a sort of a multi-agent capability. So it all depends on, in terms of what problem you're trying to solve.
Okay, but you're seeing, just to be clear, you're seeing real AI for real in the built environment right now, good use cases, things happening.
Yeah, absolutely, from a contractor perspective, understanding future cost projections based on previous models. So understanding about cost profiles of major projects, starting to forecast what that could be and what the interventions you might need to make. So yeah, we're starting to see, and you will see that as well from peer in terms of your examples. What examples have you seen, Adam, from your peer front?
Well, from a planning perspective, you've mentioned the low-hanging fruit chatbot interface with the community and stakeholders and developers with planning schemes. Has that scaled? Not yet. There's beyond pilots. Kind of pilots, but not pilots. Genuine deployments and investments. Some of those councils are moving then into sort of what next, with Gen AI. I think we're seeing, like your description of the person you were talking to the other day with the, tier 1 blue chip private sector companies, clear strategy use cases. In the built environment, contractors have got very controlled, clear use cases that are, I'd say,
but it's all very internal, isn't it?
It is, because business. What I'm seeing is that the private sector, which operates a bit differently to public sector, as we know, does but doesn't. That's those entities. The context is sometimes very, very different. They have shareholders. By law, they have to return value, and so it's just a very different mindset. Like automation. We're seeing huge automation in the mining sector and things like that, because the business case is just so clear. So I agree with you on the private sector side. From a planning perspective, I think there are very clear use cases, and I think there is technology ready to go. Planning is a very slow-moving, analog profession, though.
But I think also
there's a lot of good discussion. That's the other thing, right? I think the planning sector. Sorry to interrupt. I think the planning sector is doing a really good job at engaging with AI and having a conversation as a profession. I'm not across everything, but I don't see as much in some of the other professions, like landscape architecture or architecture. I'm sure that will come with time. like where all the BIM people at? Are they having an AI conversation?
I've got no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But just going back to I think it's important to recognise you don't need to start to develop a business case and a strategy before start your AI program. You don't necessarily need to have a business case strategy, use case developments, spend all that time, and then start your proof of concept or your pilot.
Well, that was one of my questions for you, right? You know, we saw very deliberate, long incubation period pilots with smart cities that would go for 6 months, a year, maybe more. AI is a different thing.
No, absolutely. What I would recommend is to get a problem, a really simple problem, process, and fix that very quickly.
Straight away. Jump into
just something really quite basic and just show value quickly as possible, and repeat that, and then demonstrate value and look to do it. So you can bring in an AI capability, a tech vendor. You've got a simple problem, get that in, come in, but in parallel, work out what are you doing.
But doesn't procurement kill that? Going out and getting 3 quotes, got to go to the procurement team, got to get sign off.
Procurement. This is a whole other. I don't think we've got enough time to be talking about. But you're right in terms of. So I think what you're going to see is, and look, you can do a proof of concept quite cheap now. You're not talking about hundreds of thousands. Okay, you're talking about tens in terms of in that order of magnitude. So that's what I'm saying. Keep something really simple and working out how you can scale from that. So get someone that can work alongside you strategically, but also bring in some tech capability to show a proof of value, a proof of concept quickly, and then to get people to win hearts and minds and understand what does that mean. But you need to develop your use cases. You need to understand what that value and that cost profile is going to be.
I've got a question here. And again, a line of sight back to the smart cities era. With AI, are we still seeing? Are we seeing AI solutions hunting around for a problem? We used to say that. Remember?
Yeah, it's tech
solutions in search of a problem. Are you seeing any of that with AI yet?
Oh, I think yes, because people are going back to that point. Is the CEO will talk to the head of IT or whoever. What are we doing about AI? And that person will go and find, okay, well, what are we going to do? We're going to bring something in without really clearly understanding, and then they get some budget. Yep, we're doing AI. Yep, so they can give that sort of theatre perspective. So absolutely, I think we are definitely seeing that. Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps without necessarily understanding about why we need to do this first, rather than say, okay, we're doing AI.
Okay. You know, I hear from time to time, you can't realise the value of AI or do an AI strategy or business case or any of that until you've got a data strategy. It's all right. So we go back to the data piece as we discussed in our last episode. For the built environment, the lead-in question, so 2-part question. First question is the built environment as a sector getting better at managing information?
Yes and no.
Well, that's depressing.
Yes and no. Certain organisations who are probably more mature on their tech and data programs have probably realised in terms of the gaps, and they really realise they need to remediate that. Other organisations are sleepwalking into the same issues where things are still the same. I think it's interesting that the private sector keeps saying things rightly closely to their chest, protecting that IP in terms of they're there to improve productivity, their profit margins, etc. So we would fundamentally see data is improved. Other area sectors probably still the same. We're still seeing the same issues that permeate through whatever tech program you have, whether it's AI, whether it's digital twin or whatever. It's the same issues, because unfortunately data is not a sexy conversation.
So going back then to your comment before, or your approach, indeed you recommended it. Jump in and have a play, have a go, find a low-hanging fruit, real problem, apply, play around, demonstrate value. But Gavin, I don't have a data strategy.
Well, if you want to scale your program outside of a POC, you're going to have to get a grip on understanding what data's inputting into your use cases.
Yeah, okay. So data keeps hanging around. If data's a mess, AI
You sound
will be
quite
a mess.
depressed about that.
No, well, it's just, what was it? 2016. It's been a decade. You know.
But again, it goes back to it's the same types of. Until you get clear leadership in place to understand what are the building blocks that fit into this that need to be sorted out, we will continue on the same pathway.
Okay, so let me challenge you. Let me come back and challenge you on that sort of area. And I asked you in the last episode, do you think there are roles or positions missing in an organisation to help? We're talking about leadership and governance. I noticed it must have been a month and a bit ago, you posted on LinkedIn about some organisation, HSBC maybe, Chief AI Officer.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a big sort of statement.
And they weren't, didn't they? They're not a tech person.
And they're not a tech person.
Yeah.
Do you, with AI, do you see two parts, it's kind of two questions in one here. Do you see the need for something like that with respect to AI? And can I add on to that another question? Do you see AI creeping up into the corporate risk profile?
Well, I was going to talk about risk. Yeah, so it's I don't think this is necessarily that you can have a title, a chief data officer, a chief digital officer, a head of. The title will be different things to different people. I think it's more what the role of that person.
Well, the accountability, I think, as well.
So for me, when I'm engaging with execs or anyone around this discussion is around a really good way of anything around digital and data is putting it back into their risk register. What is their corporate risk register? So how can digital and data, whatever tech it is, help mitigate your corporate or project or program risk register? If you can show a linkage that you've got cost, time, safety, carbon, whatever your risk profile is, and you can show a direct correlation at corporate level, program level, board level, how digital and data can help, you've got the eyes and the ears of the board or the exec. You're going to come in and say, we've got this AI bit of capability, we can now do X, Y, and Z. You're not going to get much traction. But if you can talk back to the risk register, corporately, program or project, you're going to start seeing. So that's why that role needs to help in terms of what the problems that the organisation has, and to try and link that. So whatever you call it, whether you call it a chief digital officer, a chief data officer, a head of AI, for me, I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested in what the role of that person is.
Okay.
Or role.
Okay. On the topic of roles, you mentioned it in the last episode. I want to dig in deeper this time, and it's the issue around jobs, right, and headcount. The word augmentation is being used more and more. You used it in the last episode, I think very clearly there's a move towards that language to, in part, stem the bleeding from the whole AI is going to take our jobs, and everyone was sort of, fearing that. But there's a genuine, approach to augmentation rather than replacement. Talk me through that. Talk me through what you're seeing and hearing and reading with respect to AI taking jobs versus, or it can be an and you can sort of reduce headcount, but also augment at the same time. Talk to me about that space.
Yeah, so
that minefield.
Yeah, it's a worrying discussion, isn't it, in terms of where this thing is going, and you'll see the headlines. I haven't necessarily seen, in my experience, where seeing people have lost jobs within the built environment through AI at the moment, but I've read, like everyone else, in terms of how headcounts have been reduced. They've given budget to implement in terms of I would imagine a very high process. So from what I understand and hear and speak with leaders, is they're looking to see in terms of how AI can help improve capacity and improve capacity by taking away heavy processed roles and perhaps redistributing them into other roles, or in terms of, and help. I think I spoke to one AI tech agentic. How can we make our people incredible? They use that as a tagline. So what they're saying is, all the crap that you do that's heavy process that no one really enjoys, how can we take that away from them so the smartness of that person to do their role is there in it being. So I think.
But sorry, just on that, some of that crap stuff is really important training.
Well,
for graduates, for example, like we've all had to shovel shit, haven't we? In those early years, at times.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So, what does the type of training that you and I had, is that needed in the future type thing? Are you going to be needed more as a people person, less technical capability perhaps, and more of a leadership and people being able to engage with people, and then allowing the capability to take on some more of that. So I think what we might see is the introduction of new people into the workforce might have to be more from a people leadership engagement perspective, will be more, and less around doing the highly processed research thing. So that's going to be, because what's going to happen is if we don't train up the new people that's fitting in, and as we get closer to retirement, and that when we fall off the sort of the work environment, how do you backfill that? So we're this really interesting early stages of what does this mean, and we've seen companies clearly get bitten by, they realise that the tokenization cost is now more than what they've laid the people off, and that's with the current cost profile.
Yeah.
And I used when Uber first came in, they had $5 Uber rides to get market share, get everyone, oh, this is great, it's cheaper. Like I said, I've spoken to people and they say that there's going to be a price correction with 12 months. We're going to see a price correction in terms of what that is. And I asked him, is that going to be a step, or is that going to be a profile?
Stick? Yeah.
Like a profile. And he didn't know. But a couple of people, but there is going to be there has to be the amount of investment, and investors are going to want to get their money, their return. So, it's a really interesting space at the moment. Where does AI become, the business case become real?
Yeah,
and that's why I double down on the fact that you need to have a clear business case to understand if you're going to be implementing this broader than just one use case, you need to clearly understand what that impact is going to be over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, with a potential option projection of 10% increase, 5, 25%, 30%. That's going to mean a huge impact onto your organisations. That's why CFOs and the C-suite need to be clearly understanding of what this means for them.
Okay. Let me change gears for a moment. I'm going to make some provocative statements. So everyone seems to be an AI expert, but no one is. Okay.
Yep, they'll go on LinkedIn.
So you and I have both been around and heavily participated in industry bodies and industry associations over the years. They play a really important role. You know, they're membership based, they're independent, they provide a voice for a sector or an industry. They help shape policy, they bring the community together to share knowledge and learn and training and events and resources, and generally try and uplift the opportunity and potential and therefore outcomes in the economy and in society. Does it surprise you at all that there is no national member-based AI industry body in Australia? Is that a surprise?
Within the built environment?
Well, just there is none. I'm pretty sure I keep up on my research on this one. I'm heavily engaged in,
You're not using AI to do your research?
Well, but there's certainly there's institutes that sort of sit in academic places, but there is no national member-based AI industry body in Australia as of now. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident that there is not. Does that surprise you? Because you don't know of any. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm thinking in terms of there is.
Are you a member of?
No.
No. Does that surprise you?
I think there has to be there's verticals, isn't there?
Yeah, but there is in no planning and architecture. There's always verticals in all industries.
No, but what I'm saying is there's no AI agenda for verticals, is there, that in terms of from an industry, from a member-based perspective, let alone a horizontal overall, is there? And I think probably this is what I think for me it would make sense that there was vertical member-based sort of built environment, mining, etc. Because of the application of that. There's some consistent things across all of them. No, I'm not surprised, but I am surprised.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? Does that tell you that there's no people have seen that as a commercial opportunity? Is it the fact that in terms of people are still trying to work out what the hell all this means, and things are moving so fast?
My view is that that's what it is. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that Data Centres Australia didn't exist. Right? They are very new, and they've just been thrown into the jaws of death immediately, right? Or the jaws of opportunity, I should say. And data centres have been around for eons. I think, I think data centres and AI in Australia is a really interesting one. I mean, overnight, it's just become a national priority, and we're all scrambling.
Well, you're seeing state governments, so South Australian government saying, hey, we've got the energy capacity, come and build here.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a race then internally within state governments, because other states have reached a capacity from their energy.
And there are some parts of national politics that want a 2-year moratorium ban on all data centre
But going back to your point, I think around, am I surprised around an industry body? Yes and no.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's there's is there an opportunity? Yeah, I think I think people would want probably perhaps somewhere to congregate and to learn and to understand there. I think.
Okay. Maybe another episode. We
Maybe.
can dream one up, architect them. So, Gavin, I want to finish by I don't want to pump your tyres up here, but a brilliant strategy that you've introduced at DBF, which is the development of a guidance paper for industry.
Yeah.
So that's underway. So at DBF, you're looking after a community of practice on AI in the built environment. I'm looking after a digital Southeast Queensland community of practice. Your community has identified the opportunity for some guidance on how to navigate AI in the built environment. Can you maybe share what you're trying to cut through there? You know, what was the why, and where do you see that artefact and resource for industry and government going?
Yeah, well, we're currently 2 revisions in. We've got a working group of about 15 to 20 individuals that are cut across the sector, from private, government, vendors, etc. It's meant to be a moment in time document to help people get started.
Yep.
And to be informed and educate them to get them started, really. So there are people within the built environment that haven't started, and this is an artefact for people to review, understanding why is it important, what's the problem we're trying to solve, what are some high level case studies, stuff that's actually being put into place. What are some applications, some use cases to that, some referencing, some artifacts as well for people to further read. So it's a guidance document. And what we're seeing now is really interesting with the group is like, should we put this information in here? And then we'll say, well, no, let's keep it very light, 20 pages. And then what we're going to do is we'll provide more of a guidance documentations that subsequently follow it. So it's like a parent document, and then there'll be some more deeper dive components to that. But like our role here at DBF is to help build capacity and capability in the built environment. And this isn't a DBF written paper, it's written by the people that are authoring it, and it's everyone's paper, so it's there to help be because to our amazement, there was nothing. There was no guidance paper. There's been things. So we're looking here to try and fill a void with that and help individuals and organisations by making their first start. So some of the things that we've spoken about will be incorporated into the guidance paper. Yeah,
awesome. Well, there'll be more on that to come. Okay, well, that's a wrap for episode 2 of our Built for Digital series. Our next episode, we're going to be going into the world of policy, and I look forward to that one. Thanks, Gav.
Cheers, mate.